Well, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar. I'm Charlene O'Hanlon, moderator for today's event, and I welcome you. As always, we have a great webinar on tap today, but before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items we need to go over. First of all, today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of it, you will be able to listen to it later on. We will be sending out an email after today's presentation that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. And we are taking questions from the audience. So if at any time during today's presentation you have a question for any of our panelists, please don't wait, don't hesitate, just use your GoToWebinar control panel and submit your questions. And we'll take a few minutes near the end of today's webinar and go through those audience questions. Okay, with that, we will go ahead and kick off today's webinar, which is Deliver Unrivaled Experience, How Synthetic Monitoring Can Help. Our speakers today are Sean Mack, who is CEO and co-founder of XOps, Larry Gordon, who is CRO and co-founder at XOps, and Daniela Pontes, who is Senior Manager of Product Marketing at Influx Data. Welcome to you all. Thanks for joining me today. Sean, I know you are going to be kicking things off, so I'm going to put myself on mute and let you get to it.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for having us here. Thanks to DevOps.com and our partners at Influx Data. It is great to be here. I'm really excited to be joining you today to talk a bit about synthetic monitoring and looking at how it can really be used to drastically improve user performance. Today, we're going to start by giving you a bit of introduction, introduce ourselves, our company, and then I'll get into talking about what is synthetic monitoring. We'll also look at an open source option for synthetic monitoring, which offers some real great opportunities. It's built on the InfluxDB platform. So give you an overview of the architecture, and then actually jump right in and show you a demo. So before I get started, I'd like to hand it over to my partner here, Larry Gordon, who's going to tell you a little bit about XOps and what we do here.
Thanks, Sean, and hi, everybody. Great to be on DevOps.com's webinar, and great to be working with Influx Data. We work with a lot of Influx Data customers as well, so good spot for us. So XOps is a consulting and IT services company. We're very focused on DevOps and helping customers and enterprises do their tech ops better, whether it's DevOps related or even if it's ServiceNow or ITIL related. We are New York based, and our stack of services includes management consulting, which we look at as DevOps assessments and DevOps strategy and DevOps leadership training. We provide managed services. That's from a global delivery center in Sri Lanka, doing DevOps from that center for global clients. And we offer staffing solutions. Many of the customers, of course, require engineers on site, and we solve those problems that way. And today, in particular, our community, our customers, our engineers, people associated with the company, build open source tools to help people, to help engineers do DevOps better. And we're going to be talking about a tool we built on Influx Data for synthetic user monitoring. And that's who XOps is. From a higher level, what we seek to do every day is save money for our customers, help them get their applications to market faster with higher quality and more stability. These are all things about running the business better and more profitably and increasing customer satisfaction. And we help drive innovation. And of course, innovation is the name of the game for cloud-based applications these days. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Larry. And you're so right. Really looking at the marketplace and the speed at which technology is being delivered today. If you're not innovating, right, you're not in business, right? And the challenge has always been to innovate while being stable. And one of the things I love about being in the DevOps community is that DevOps finally begins to provide some real answers to how do we move faster while being more stable, right? Because there is a huge cost to not being stable, right? One survey from CA Technologies found that 26.5 billion in revenue is lost each year from IT downtime. And that's just revenue. In fact, revenue in general isn't the main impact of downtime. There was another study that said that 78% of downtime costs relate to other items such as reduced worker productivity or brand impact, right? So that 26.5 billion that's lost in revenue each year is just the tip of the iceberg, right? So one of the things we look at and we like to work on is looking at how to reduce that downtime. And that's one of the reasons we've got involved with the open source community, got involved with building open source tools. Having run large global operations for many years, I've often see these things that I really want to solve, these problems that I really want to solve, and one of them was in the synthetic monitoring space. There just hasn't been a good open source alternative. And we'll get into a bit about what is synthetic monitoring, and we'll also be able to show you a open source solution that we've provided for free. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what is synthetic user monitoring for those who may not be aware. Basically, synthetic user monitoring is a type of monitoring which simulates a user's interaction with a website or web service, and it can simulate it from points around the globe, right? So you want to see anything from a simple, hey, I've got to the front page and it's showing up from me for your customers in China or your customers in Japan, to full user transactions where a user may log into the site, put an item in their shopping cart, go through the checkout steps and actually make a full purchase. And synthesizing that full user interaction from different points around the world is what synthetic monitoring is all about. And here's why that's important. It's important because you test your actual user experience. There are so many pieces of the monitoring ecosystem that are important but don't focus on the customer experience, right? Synthetic monitoring is one of the ways of monitoring which really focuses on how our customers perceiving their interaction with your application or services, right? And a lot of what we want to do when we're talking about DevOps is start by focusing on the customer. How is the customer experience, right? As you know, slight changes in performance can drastically affect a customer's willingness to purchase on your site. So if you can improve the performance from different customers in different geographies, you can really improve actually your sales throughput, the experience with your brand. So it's critically important. I've seen some massive outages that occur without companies being aware of them, even though they have tons of monitoring. And you wonder why this occurs, how this occurs. It occurs because they're taking an inside out viewpoint, meaning they're looking at things like, the performance of the servers, the CPU performance, things like that. But they're not looking at how are the customers, right? So I've seen massive uncaught outages because companies were not looking at how the user was experiencing. So if you've ever asked yourself, why did our customers catch that before us? One of the solutions may well be synthetic monitoring. Now, I do want to talk because there's often some confusion about synthetic monitoring versus real user monitoring, right? And they're both very valuable parts of how you look at your monitoring. Real user monitoring, in contrast to synthetic monitoring, monitors how users are using the system. So this is sometimes implemented as code that executes on the client side within the browser that actually watches how customers and reports on how customers are interacting with your application. It can also be captured on the network side as users enter into your network to capture all the data about how customers are actually using it. And that's really useful in many ways, right? It shows you, excuse me, it can show you actual user journeys. It can show you what is the path most frequently traveled by users, right? Um, and that data can actually feed into synthetic monitoring. So once you know those key user journeys, you may want to then set those up as synthetic journeys, because where you may where real user monitoring may fall down is during the off hours when you don't have users using your systems, right? So if you have real user monitoring on a system that's only used during daytime hours, if that system goes down overnight, you won't know because you're relying on real users to be really using it. As opposed to synthetic monitoring, which runs those same journeys 24/7, 365. So these are both very valuable ways of looking at your systems and seeing how they're performing from a kind of external vantage point. Real user monitoring provides more data about how actual users are interacting with your sites, whereas synthetic monitoring can provide 24/7, 365 availability about how you're to ensure that your sites are performing on those key user transactions. So, we've built this tool called XSum. It's open source, it's free, and we've got it hosted online. I'll show you a demo of it. But for folks who are interested in exploring and implementing synthetic user monitoring, I'd suggest you check it out. There's a lot of benefits to synthetic monitoring. First of all, as I mentioned, the real-time monitoring of website availability and performance from a simulated end user perspective, and using those journeys that are critical to your users, right? So it isn't just that the page is up. It isn't just that the server is up. It's that you can actually walk through and do those critical tasks that your users want to do. And thereby, when there are any major problems with your site or application. Synthetic tools like the one we have here today will also allow you to dig into performance issues, allow you to do things like waterfall charts, get detail into how your systems are performing so that you can begin to optimize it. So you can see where is page load time taking an excess amount of time. What are the elements that may be impacting performance for your users? It also provides a real-time log of when there are outages and how long did that occur and which sorts of customers did that impact. And it ensures that your key transactions are taking place with customized transaction testing. So there's certainly some other synthetic monitoring tools out there. I don't need to oversell our free tool. It's available and it's there for the use. There's other ones. We've tried to design XSum to be easy to use, and also open source, right? And we've really seen two groups that have gravitated towards XSum. One of them are the small business owners. We have a hosted version of XSum. It's online. You can log in, set up a free account, and you can make sure that your system is up and available 24/7, 365 without any fees, and just make sure it's always there for your users. But we've also seen an interest from large enterprises. And I've been in this position too, where I want to monitor synthetic transactions, but many of these systems charge per the number of transactions. And so when you start to monitor hundreds of applications, thousands of applications, and each of those has, 5 to 10 to 20 different key transactions, it gets very expensive very quickly. Right, so for large enterprise companies, you can actually download our software, install it, run it, and then you're just paying the cost of managing the system, right? And if you've already got a team managing these sorts of systems, that's the overhead of running your business. So you can actually, by doing that, realize some pretty significant cost savings. And we're excited about that because that means you're interested in the product and hopefully contributing back. This is open source. We want a community of people involved in our product and helping to contribute to what we're building here. So if you're interested in looking a little bit at what's under the hood here and how we built this thing, wanted to share a little bit about what we've built here. The front end is built in Node with React doing the API. And then we have a series of Docker containers, and these are what run the tests. And these are distributed around the world in different points so that we can actually run and simulate real user transactions around the world 24/7. We also use MongoDB to store things like user and configuration information on the backend. And of course, this rides on InfluxDB. And excited to be here today with our partners at Influx because we found it to be a great solution for us. I mean, this is obviously a challenge which lends itself to time series data. That is, data that consecutively happens over set intervals of time, which InfluxDB is optimized for. It has led to given us tremendous scalability and the ability to offer this service for free. So it's really great to be here with Influx. I will say that XM, the integration with Influx was really easy. And, we have under the hood now a leading partner in time series who is also very active in the open source community. So we're really glad to be part of that as well. And it allows us to focus on adding value and competitive differentiation rather than trying to roll our own or invent our own type of time series database. And, here today, Daniela is here with us. And so I'm going to actually turn it over to her to talk a little more and explain a little more about Influx DB and Influx data. Daniela?
Hi, Sean. Thank you for the lead. Yeah, we share the commitment to open source. We believe that log solutions is a disservice to the professionals there that are trying to do their jobs. But to give you a little bit more insight in terms of why InfluxDB has been chosen as the choice for time series platform for visionaries like the team from XOps, is because I would say two main reasons, besides the fact that we are open source. One is that we were purpose built. And what does it mean? It means that we looked into the time series data and recognize specific characteristics that makes it a special set of data. And we use that understanding. Every time we find some characteristic that is unique to time series, we use it as an opportunity for optimization. And we also use as an opportunity to provide features that would help you to handle it better and manage its life cycle. So, and I have here some of them that impact directly in our design and in the way that we provide you and other solutions, a platform with which they can scale. First is when we are talking about time series, we are talking about data records that comes with a timestamp. When you talk about timestamp, you cannot avoid the subject of precision. So you need to pay attention if the precision that you are getting in your time series solution can, vary or can accommodate the precision that you have in your environment or for what you want to monitor. I give you an example. If you are in latency sensitive markets like finance or gaming, they use nanotechnology. So you better be able to ingest in the same speed that they work. So you want to look into nanosecond precision. if you are acquiring a solution for DevOps or for network monitoring in a regular environment that is not so sensitive to latency, and then you may be talking about, seconds, sampling per second. But in any way, you need to understand what you want that platform to offer you. Not all are the same. Another thing is time series, they don't come in the same shape and form. Time series, they are generated in two main formats, I would say. One is regular time series, where you get samples in regular time spans, like every second, a minute, hour, day, whatever. But you have that regularity when you know you are going to record another sample. But there is another kind of time series which has vast use case. It's what we call irregular, and accommodates what is defined as events. Events is something that happens when it happens. And it's not always related to fault or something bad, It is also related to something that you want to monitor, but you don't have control over. For example, a user behavior. You want to know, you added a new functionality and you want to know how users are interacting with it. So you want to check, clicks, you want to check some kinds of transactions, or you want to check errors that occurs in that use case. So events, they come as they come, when they come. And you may think, oh, but isn't this the same thing? No, it's not. Of course, you can manage that kind of, you can manage timestamp data or time series data in the way that you want. You can even use a flat file to put the information there, and later on find a way to extract and use it. But things starts to make a difference when you grow in volume, in scale, in performance. You want to make sure that you know how to ingest, compress, compact, and evict efficiently both types of time series. And I guarantee you that is not in the same way. Another thing is that it's not only about having the data in a performance database that can handle the queries and the storage. You need to think about also how you're going to get that data. And not every system, application, environment there, they work in the same way. Some applications or systems that you want to collect data from, they expose metrics, like Prometheus type of endpoint. So you need to go there and pull that data. And other kinds of applications, they push data to you. So you need to listen to that data. And some of them even push in stream format. So you also, again, you need to pay attention to this kind of use case or scenarios that you have in-house. Make sure that what you have to collect and to receive that data can accommodate. Another thing that you need to pay attention is when you have, we are in the age of instrumentation. It's not only ops, net ops, application developers that want to make decisions based on data, and fresh data, by the way. If you are starting the project to be able to monitor your environment, you are going to get requests from all over the place. Business unit managers, they will want to understand better how they are doing. They will have specific business indicators that they want to monitor, and they will not always be numeric. So you need also to make sure that in the environment that you are creating, in the platform that you're adopting for handling, monitoring, it can accommodate multiple types of data. So now let's talk about performance, because time series data is being generated in huge volumes, and that will not stop. It will only increase, because everything that you can think as an observable entity is apt for time series monitoring. And then on top of that, some set of data will require retention for a long time. So you need to be, you need to think big in terms of, having a platform in-house that can handle the growth of that volume and can ingest in very high rate. And by the way, everybody that is, with requests for monitoring something, they will want to have their own dashboard, and that dashboard cannot be stale. They will be refreshing that thing, quite often, with that idea that everybody is moving to real time. So pay attention on scalability, capacity to ingest fast and to query, simultaneously multiple sets of, measured data, and also be real time. Another thing that it's very important to consider, and not always is part of the planning process, is that time series is time sensitive. The value decreases over time, depending on the type of data that you are collecting. For certain environments, you may want to collect and get a sample for every minute or 5 minutes and keep that information for a week. Make sure that, okay, let's see if something was brewing there and it's going to happen in this time frame. If nothing happened, you don't need to keep that granularity. You can do roll up, you can aggregate, you can sum, we can transform that data for long-term storage and keep only the information that you need for modeling and profiling. So you need to have that as part of the architecture to make sure that that process of managing the life cycle of the data that you are collecting and storing, is done automatically up front, that you don't have to go there and manually evict data. It will not scale. So the whole process from instrumentation, ingestion, real-time querying and analytics, and to eventual eviction or long-term storage needs to be part of your design process. So I think another very important aspect of InfluxDB is that it doesn't come alone. InfluxDB is part of a platform. As I mentioned, it's time series. It's not just the time record that you keep somewhere in a file and later on you may go there and query it. Time series, it's an approach to monitoring, to managing an environment, and start from instrumentation, observation, and then you have to have a way to learn from that data. And then, the ultimate goal that we all want is to automate as much as we can for cost saving, but also because we cannot keep up as humans with the speed of machines. So Influx Data is the company behind InfluxDB open source, and we maintain, with our engineering team and also a very vibrant, committed community to open source, 4 projects. One is InfluxDB, the core center, the highly performant time series database, but we have also Telegraph, which is the collecting agent, lightweight, plugin based with more than 200 plugins. So most likely we have already a plugin for you to collect data from the systems and applications that you have in your environment, being it Apache or a web server Nginx, or if you need a Java client, we have. Or if you have your message bus, Kafka, we have. So most likely, we already have an instrumentation tool for you to collect the data that you need, not the data that we're pushing at you, but what you need, because you need to be objective about what you monitor as well. InfluxDB also comes with Capacitor. Capacitor is a real-time stream engine. So you can stream data into Capacitor for alerting in real time. And Capacitor also can use cross measurements analytics to bring data from InfluxDB with fresh data that you are sending to it to create even more intelligent kind of alerting. And of course, we have Chronograph, the visualization tools. You are going to be serving different audiences. Having the data is not enough. You need to present it in a way that is understandable and useful to the people that want that kind of observation. So Chronograph comes already with lots of pre-canned dashboard for the most common measurements and observation metrics that is out there, but also is based on a very flexible language. It's human understandable, so it's easy to start composing your own measurement dashboards. So that's basically, I think, the 2 or 3 main aspects that makes InfluxDB platform as a preferred choice. Open source, purpose built, and it's a platform, not just a database. Sean, back to you.
Great, thank you so much. Really always awesome to hear about the stuff that Influx Data is doing. And to show you a little bit about the power of it, I'm going to do a demonstration of our synthetic monitoring tool that sits on top of InfluxDB. So this is XSum. Anybody can access it. You can get to it at xsum.xops.it. And I'll show you a quick demo here. One thing I do want to mention, it's real easy to sign up. You just put in an email, name, company, password. One of the reasons I really want to call this out is only just because I want to mention that XSum is designed from the bottom up to be a multi-tenant system and to actually identify different organizations. So if you have a company and you want to share data across it, you want to share dashboards, we've been built from the ground up to allow many users from the same organization to build dashboards and share them with each other. So let's log in right here. Created a test account for our demo. So you see right away, looks like we've got a problem. So you can see all the locations you have, points around the world where you can monitor your systems. This is monitoring systems from points in the USA, points in Singapore, and then we've got several tests set up here, right? So you can see very quickly all the different sites you want to monitor, and it gives you performance. It allows you to zoom in or zoom out on individual performance indicators to see how any test is performing at an indicated point of time. Set up alerts, set up limits. We also have a performance overview site where you can see the performance. So if you have a enterprise that has hundreds of sites, you can get in one view how all of those sites are performing to make sure that they're performing within your boundaries at a given time. XSum allows you to easily add tests. We have a few different types of tests here. You simply add the URLs you want to test. We have everything from simple script tests to simple ping tests, which simply give you the performance and quickly test it, to actual browser-based scripting tests where you can use Selenium-based scripting, plug that in here. So if you want to actually script a full user journey, which I think you need to do, if you've got a complex application or system that you want to test, you can really step through all the steps a user is going to take to make sure each step in the process works for your users, and not just for one user, but for users around the world. And you can also run single-time performance tests. Let me just jump back here to show you some of the detail you can get here. So if I go into one of my tests, right, we have details about all the different pieces of the page load, your TCP connection, when the last byte is received, and we have additional detail about how it's performing, and this is actually how it's performing versus other sites. So a lot of great detail is available there. You can also add alerts to your sites. So you can set up warning and threshold alerts. When you look back at the dashboards I showed you before, that showed you some of the alerts. We had set the thresholds so that when the performance reaches a certain point, you actually start to get warnings and alerts, right? And we have more detail you can put in there about when to start a learning, when to stop a learning. There's lots you can do in terms of managing your users, giving you the users different access levels so that some users can view certain amount of information, others users can view different amount of information. One of the things I did want to mention is that we do allocate a certain amount of points. So each user on their free account gets 25,000 points, and a point is basically per test, right? So you can run several tests for free for as long as you want, right? And then more complex tests may take up more. But you actually then, in this way, if you're using it on premise, if you're taking it, and running it in your own private cloud, you can actually manage how much usage each user within your system gets. And we can also use the same mechanism to manage users who are using the XSum site. So, by using InfluxDB, we get a lot of powerful information collecting how we're performing from points around the globe. I'll switch back. So that's a quick overview of one of the great free tools we built with InfluxDB. And it's open source. I'd love for some of the people watching to use it. If you're interested in using it on-prem, please do. Please give us feedback. More than anything, what we're looking for is feedback from our users, or use it for free online, or start there and then come in and download it. And we've got a lot of exciting stuff that we're building next, right? So we're doing more in-depth performance testing. We're actually going to be adding API testing, some waterfall charts, and we're doing a whole bunch of integrations. More than anything, what I'm looking forward to is continued community contributions. You'll see there's a feedback form on our site. So if there's things you want that aren't there, let us know. We're constantly building, we're constantly innovating. And we want your help, right? And this, check it out, try it for free. It's on xsum.xops.it. We've got a community on Facebook to talk about this, as well as other open source tools to talk about DevOps. That's at XOps Army. And then you can also, download it and contribute to it. It's on GitHub at xopstech/xsum. So that's a little bit about synthetic monitoring. We talked a little bit about synthetic monitoring and how it can really help you deliver performance, why it's important, and a demo of a free open source tool, XSum, that you can use to do synthetic monitoring on your site. Thanks very much to Influx Data and DevOps.com for this webinar, and thank you all for joining today.
All right, great. Well, I think we have plenty of time for some question and answer. So we've gotten a couple in so far, but there's plenty of time. If you have a question for any of our panelists, please go ahead and use your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll get to as many as we can. Okay, diving right in. The first question: what languages are supported for the scripted tests? The one that was described as was using Selenium. So are there any others?
Yeah, no, great question. Right now it's just Selenium, but certainly open again to other languages if there are other scripting languages you would like us to support.
Excellent. Okay, great. Next question. Can you alert real time on errors?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the key functions. I'm not sure, I didn't go into it in too much detail, but those alerting will happen as soon as a test detects that you are not meeting your performance thresholds. Right now we've got email-based alerting, and we're working on building out integration with PagerDuty.
All right, great. Next question. Can I use this on an enterprise-wide scale? Do I have to buy InfluxDB and XSum separately?
That's a great question. Larry, do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Sure, I'll talk to that. XSum is available as open source, so no cost, and that comes with InfluxDB as open source. So on smaller scales, totally free to use. You don't have to do separate implementations. They're integrated. On large enterprise deals, you're actually going to have to talk to us and at XOps. And there's a paid version of XSum and a paid version of InfluxDB, totally integrated. But for large scale use, many pages, many applications, there is a fee for it.
All right. Okay, great. Let's see. Plenty of time, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and send them on in. Next question. Let's see. Selenium. Okay, so I think this is a follow-up actually to that, the Selenium question. Selenium can be written in many languages, such as C#, Python, JavaScript. I'm wondering what language that web interface takes.
You know, I'll have to double check because I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'll check with our tech team, but I believe it's any of the languages that Selenium will take. But let me double check and get back to you on that before I commit to that.
All right, great. Just so you guys know that any questions that don't get answered during today's presentation, I'm sure that the folks at XOps or Influx Data would be more than happy to follow up with you offline. So this is a perfect example of one. So, okay, so the next question here, can we use the script created using Microfocus and upload for synthetic monitoring?
Again, I think this goes to the same thing. If it's a Selenium based script, you should be okay.
Should be okay.
Check it out. And the other thing I'd say is, if it doesn't work, send us some feedback and let us know, and we can add it to our backlog.
All right.
Yeah, and last I checked, Microfocus actually had an exposed API, and we can integrate that. So
that's awesome. Okay.
Do as the open source project.
Excellent, excellent. All right, great. Next question. What is the max limit of transactions or applications for small scale?
So right now we're limited to 25,000 points per user. Really, it's a limit of the number of tests, and it's based on the amount of time, the time interval you test. So if you're testing every, 30 seconds, that's going to run out quicker than if you're testing every 10 minutes. Every organization has a balance that's right for them, and they're going to need to figure that out. But as I've said a few times, we more than anything want feedback, right? So if you jump on the free version, you're using it, and you get to you're running through your points, right? Let us know, and we can certainly work something out, get you upgraded. Because right now we're in a phase where we're trying to get feedback, and that's more important to us than anything.
All right, great. Well, let's see. Okay, next question. Questions keep coming in. This is great. Is there a security concern where XSum is capturing data once the app is configured? How do we know the terms are in the securities perspective?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I'm trying to parse through the different pieces.
Yeah, no problem. So the first part is there a security concern where XSum is capturing data once the app is configured? And then the next question is, how do we know the terms in the security perspective? So I guess it's just kind of a follow-on to the first question.
Sure. So a couple things. I mean, there's two different ways to deploy this, right? One is using our hosted version, right, which is free, and the other is to download it. I will say that it's all built on industry standard open source technology. It's all built with security in mind and securing your data. If you are using our system online, you can be assured that we've adhered to all the best practices in terms of security configuration. if you have your own security policies that you want to adhere to, you can also download it and deploy it within your own security regions and run your own security scan. So there's several ways to approach that depending on your organizational needs. But we really value your privacy. We really value security. Being in the DevOps space, something that's very important to us. So we've certainly built that with security in mind.
All right, great. Well, that is all the questions that have come in so far. We'll give the audience a few minutes here to get any last questions they want to get in. Meanwhile, while we're waiting, I do want to remind the audience that today's event has been recorded or is being recorded. So if you miss any or all of the event, or if you just want to listen to it again, you will have the opportunity to do so. We are going to be sending out a link to access the webinar on demand. That will be coming out this afternoon following today's webinar. And then the webinar is also living on the devops.com website. So you can always find it there. You can just go to devops.com/webinars and look for it in the on-demand section. Looks like we have maybe one more question here that has come in. Is the monitoring only at application level, or can this tool also monitor infrastructure and network, perhaps?
Yeah, no, this is very purpose-built. Great question. Very much purpose-built to focus on application, and not just on application. It's not an application performance management tool. It is a synthetic monitoring tool. It's purpose-built for that. And it's interesting being in the DevOps space for quite a long time now. I've seen a lot of tools trying to be everything to everybody, right? I've seen a lot of great APM tools try and be synthetic user monitoring tools, trying to be infrastructure tools. What I've found as someone who's responsible for those tools is that they generally do really well in one, maybe two areas, but fall down in all the other areas that they're trying to expand to. So we took a very conscious approach and continue to make our tools modular. This is purpose-built, focused on external synthetic user monitoring. You can use it. Let me also say you can use it internal to external. So for example, if you want to make sure your internal users have access from an on-site premise to an off-site tool, you can certainly use it for that. But it is purpose-built synthetic user monitoring. We're not trying to monitor the performance of your hard drives. We're trying to make sure your users can access your site and use it in the way that you designed it.
Sean, I can add something to it, because the fact that you guys chose InfluxDB as your platform is great, that you can offer this specific, very well covered segment of monitoring your user experience. But if you have InfluxDB as the data store, InfluxDB could also store other kinds of data. So if you have, for example, Prometheus kind of environment, you can send to InfluxDB as well. So you could, with both, be visualizing everything from the same repository of data. So you don't lose any investment by adopting XSUM, with InfluxDB, because you can add to other kinds of data that you collect in another way, but still accessible through the same repository.
That's a great point, Daniela. Did you have something, Larry?
I was going to encourage Daniela to make the point that InfluxDB in that.
Well, that worked out well then.
Excellent.
Awesome. Okay. All right, great. Let's see. We have gotten another question in. Where can we find the documentation for setup or instrumenting the synthetic monitoring? And for any further queries, whom or how to reach out? I guess beyond what's on the screen right here.
Yeah, I love all these questions. This is awesome. I'm excited about this product, obviously, and excited about Influx, and so it's great to have this input and feedback. So thank you for all the questions. You can check out the source code. Everything about XSum is on GitHub, but you can also come to our XOps site, which is at xops.it. There's a couple ways to contact us from there, or you can join our Facebook community at XOps Army on Facebook. So any of those are great ways to contact us. In fact, if you go to xsum.xops.it, there's also a feedback form there, right? So there's a lot of ways to get in touch with us. If you're interested in implementing it, you're running into problems, there's not enough information on GitHub, feel free to reach out. I know our tech lead loves to work with folks who are interested in using this, so don't hesitate.
All right, great. Well, that is the last of the questions that we have. So I do want to kind of tap dance for about 30 seconds to see if we get any more questions in. Just a reminder that we have a ton of other webinars that are listed on the devops.com website, both upcoming and on demand. So please feel free to check out that site and see if there are any webinars that pique your interest. Doesn't look like we're going to get any more questions in, so I do want to thank today's speakers, Sean, Larry, and Daniela. Thank you all for taking the time and joining me today. Great presentation, lots of good questions. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you
Excellent.
also.
Thanks for having us.
Great.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, thank you very much, and I want to thank the audience also for joining me today. This is Charlene O'Hanlon, and I'm signing off. Have a great day, everybody.